You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, not what you don't.
And the same thing that happened before happened again. So I have to click on this and quit out of that and see if we shrink. We didn't shrink. But now we're going to see if we can somehow, from my standpoint, shrink me out of the picture. I don't want to be in the picture. You know, there's no need for me to be in the picture. Check one. All right. As you can see, I'm looking backwards into the website. And as far as I know, it looks to me, even though it's in miniature, that we're doing okay, right? So we're doing okay. Yeah, that's nice. So I'm going to be apparently, in the way this appears, oh, you know, you drink a couple of beers and hey, are we live? Hey, fella, are we live? I think we're live. I think we are live. I think we're live on the TV. Yeah, we're on that TV thing, that new box. That new box. And there you go. If you can see this. The morning show. I'm drinking a leftover Diet Cola. And the thing about that is, it's going to appear as if I'm looking in the wrong direction. And I don't know how to train my eye to do better. See, I'm experimenting with the technology. There was a time when you can take a window, a browser window, and this isn't, there's all kinds of neat stuff that we're going to get into today. So relax. Take care. All right. You know, because
I'm a dead man if I don't get this out of my head.
If I can get it out.
How?
A cranial drill and a pair of forceps.
So first of all, I mean, let's take care of housekeeping. Housekeeping. The card that we all saw today, that should be popping up soon. Also, at times, the syncing of my lips will be off. All right. But as you can see, this picture that's on the screen, pay no attention to that man on the other side. Okay, we don't know what he's doing over there. Okay, but this picture here that I'm trying to look at, that was going on in front of my house yesterday, and it started pretty early. And if you look closely at this, let's see if I get how big I can enlarge this. You know, fill your screen. And you'll notice at the bottom, at the very bottom, that's the world's biggest saw. You see? And he's sawing two lines. Let me get it where I can see it too. He's sawing two lines towards my house. This is infrastructure. They're trying to fix a sewer problem that they screwed up themselves a long time ago. That's the title card today. So I took that picture out. That picture was taken from my front door. And that's one of my columns coming up. That's the street I live on. They didn't open up that hole yesterday. They're going to do that today. Instead, they opened the. I should be pointing this way. They didn't open up that hole. All right. Instead, further down, I should point this way. There's a doctor's office. They ended up opening up that, and it was till 9 p.m. And the noise was so like mind-boggling during the day. And there's a cat in a litter box that I ended up drinking at about when I was about noon. In fact, here's a photo of that little artistic shot. You could see my cigar, my beer that looks kind of green because there actually is some lime in it, and you could see it's hard to tell, that much here. But I've got some candles, the ashtray, my Zippo lighter below. In the background, you could see like laundry. That's my bar, laundry, kitchen, all in one. See, one of the beauties of being a confirmed bachelor is that it's bright. Well, anyway, this is the morning show with Tony Caravan. Glad you could be here. And it's going to definitely be.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
So
here's what's happening.
And
you're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
All right, so we got all that stuff out of the way. Might as well do that. Guess what you think? So this is the website. I encourage you to go. It's TonyCaravanLive.com. As you can see, it's one of these. There's my book, Codex. And, you can click on this book. And when I click on a link or something like that, this is where I'm liable to see my voice. Yeah, and that would be the Amazon page. But what happens is when I put a strain, because I'm broadcasting over Wi-Fi in order for this monitor to work and do the things it's doing, it's going to steal bandwidth or something from the broadcast. And the same thing is if you want to get one of these you don't know what you don't know shirts, this will slow so it's pay no attention to my but that's basically the shirt. It's selling for $21.49. It's the most comfortable shirt in the world. I mean, you can get any size you want. I mean, up to 5XL and down to small. So you can't beat that. In fact, it looks like they're out of 4XLs, but they are out of XLs, but not the average person is just a large. So, that's Rock Flux. And these are all the various designs that I have that are available. And I just thought I'd use this technology today to show some of that. If you don't mind, just getting that out of the way in the early part of the show. And of course, you can see the morning show mug and the morning show other, travel mug. And of course, that's a couple of my other books. And, then we have great solar stuff. It should still be here. And this is where you find all these cool devices like the Jackery, which I have back here. And this thing here. Let's see make sure they still have that in stock. So I've been pushing it so much. Sometimes these things, they run out of stock. But remember, if you get it, buy it through the link. Now, it's still in stock. So get your portable radio. Only $35. You get solar panels, all that stuff. Thanks for your patronage. My original site is rockflux.com. And that's a little bit darker. So I think we'll stick with that for the time being. It's 5:22 in the morning. It's May 4th in calendar year 2021. I'm broadcasting to you live from the former United States, and I'm about to dim things even a little bit more to kind of fit the time frame. This is a little more cozy, a little more realistic. You really want to see my face? A little bit more brightness? Well, in time, my friends, in time. Maybe I'll take this off. What I'm going into is on this older computer, I'm going into System Preferences and Universal Access, which is basically the controls that they offer for handicapped people. And that way they allow, like if you have eye problems, sometimes white on black is more visible for certain people. So good morning. Let's get into reading the description like we normally do. So I'm going to click edit and pull this up. And I guess this has to be widened a little bit for the full thing to read. Here we go. Society is falling apart at the seams at all levels, yet life goes on as normal for most denizens of dystopia. Makes that line about Nero fiddling while Rome burned make a lot more sense. Yeah. Doesn't it? And you get a chance to see the interface here of, kind of the YouTube studio live thing, which is, a treat for some. Again, the man in the box. I am the man in the box. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? So I was drinking yesterday afternoon at my bar. Wrote a few things down, a few drunken notes. The captain's hat. I guess I want to buy a captain's hat. I need to get an acoustic guitar tuner. I got to restring my acoustic guitar. I have a crappy acoustic guitar. I need to buy like one of those Martins, Gibsons, or Fenders. I need like a $750 minimum guitar. The guitar I have now is like lucky if it's worth it. It was $100 and I got ripped off. But this thought came upon me yesterday about that, as I said in the let's look at this again real quickly. That society is falling apart at the seams at all levels, yet life goes on for most denizens of dystopia. And I was thinking that as this is just an idea, this is a thought. But my prediction is that we're going to experience art is going to reawaken in civilization. Because we haven't really seen much fine art, what I call fine art. Another the highest and greatest that man can achieve. Man being Homo sapiens sapiens. Okay, for those who get triggered by the word mankind. Hey, look, the world is the way it is. Things happen the way they happen. Our language developed the way it developed. Just because a few, control freaks decide they get triggered by a language we've been using for 1,000 years, okay? Screw you. It's mankind. It's the same with BC and AD instead of BCE. Look, there it's accepted. So you got a problem. You want to say before the common era instead of before Christ. You know what? It's accepted. It's been BC for 2,000 years. Okay. Well, close to it. So guess what? It's BC or AD. I don't mean to get on a rant with that, but I had to. I made some cold brew coffee yesterday, and I don't know how that's going to taste after this, but I figure I might as well get it in here and see what goes. How do you make cold brew coffee, you asked? You take a container. In this case, I took one of these old containers in which I bought a cold brew many moons ago, or at least one moon ago, and mixed it in. In this one, I had a Swiss Miss kind of mocha mix, and then some Folgers crystals. And then I filled it with purified water, shook it, put it in the refrigerator overnight. Let's see. Tastes like a hot dog. Serious. After drinking that other drink, it tastes like a frickin' hot dog.
Okay.
Which is sick because you know what? I'm starving. I have no food in the house. The only thing I have in the house to eat is to cook. And I'll do that after the show. But, man, that's annoying. That's annoying. I was listening to some of my own music, though, yesterday. That was a highlight. And I was listening more particularly the song Happy Nightmares, which I know I don't have on here. It's a live version. And it's too bad because it was on my list of things to do this morning, and I just didn't do it. I was going to move it on here.
We'll have to remodulate our signal to match the network's interlink frequency.
So I should have done that, and I didn't. But back to this idea of art. So we'll get into infrastructure because I want to talk more about that because I'm experiencing it firsthand to the point of maddening. You know, they're using this heavy equipment that I keep talking about. But the problem is it's not meant to be used in a neighborhood. It's like this weird floating head over here, you know. Look at that. You know, with a whole different lighting on them. Like, who's this guy? And then who's that guy? What is real? Right? Both are, are the man in the box. Yeah, it's crazy. And then when you see the classic iconic face here next to this rounded thing with headphones, it's kind of becomes more bizarre. But there's something about the way we work, as humans. Oh, by the way, I'm powering this thing this time through a USB. You can see here, this is USB pushed into a Google, dongle thing. So I could do Chromecasting. That's what I'm doing. We're Chromecasting. So not only are we broadcasting live over YouTube studio, but we're Chromecasting to this thing here so we can see images. It's kind of cool. But like I say, if the image or the website that I happen to put up on this screen over the Wi-Fi network, if that happens to just pull a little too much bandwidth, then you'll notice that my lips will go out of sync and it'll steal, from the broadcast. I don't know. I'm paying like close to $100 a month for internet service, and I don't know. It just doesn't seem right that I should have to deal with that. You know, kind of issues of slower bandwidth. So while I'm at this, let me see. This is a movable monitor, obviously. So if I do something like this, see, you probably just don't even. There's a glare that I didn't have when I had it over there. The glare is a reflection of everything you see here. But if I take that glare off of there, then all you've got is like this ghoul here. See, what I would like to do is just, oh, maybe I can do it this way. Let's see. Okay. That also lets you see the old spam thing over there, the spam award that had the funk of 40,000 years on it. The only thing you really can't see is great solar stuff in the background, but we don't have to worry about that anymore. And the idea is for me to be looking more into the camera over here instead of here where I'm looking into my face. So if I shrink myself like this, maybe, then it's not as bad, right? It's almost like I'm just talking. I just don't get the full Monty view. Hot dog. Doesn't make sense. Tastes like a hot dog. Some flavors just don't like blend with one another. It's like, I don't know.
The future. He came from the future. And so do I.
But you said that he wasn't human, that he was some other kind of being.
Another world and another time.
So, I mean, I have no basis to propose this idea about artwork. You know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, the finer arts for the most part, everything we talk about is a generalization, right? Because, you know, with some close to 8 billion people on the planet, you can't speak for what's happening in certain pockets and areas. I'm sure there are some very, very great artists out there producing fantastic art, you know, but we also know that, you know, in Western civilization, for the most part, we've been experiencing, you know, artists where, you know, it's a white canvas with a dot on it, and it gets a rave review in the you know, in the media or by the art critics, you know, or that people are giving artists commissions to make them a painting that will match the decor, the color of the walls, right, or the architecture of their condo or home. So in effect, art has become furniture. Mainstream art in America has become either furniture or people who are abusing the system. You know, people that make sculptures that are, you know, found object sculptures and things like that, and just kind of put them together, and they, you know, it's just excuse me, compared to the Pietà, you know, or Da Vinci, the Sistine Chapel, you know, the Dutch masters, you know, I mean, hell, the whole Renaissance movement. And even, excuse me, even Picasso, but, by the time, and I, people hate to see this, you hear you say this, but I'm very sorry. It's quite a ridiculous show. But, even Warhol, I mean, the classic, see, we could have fun today because we could go to Warhol and find his cam. See, this is where you may see some things. Let's look at this and see what we got here. So most people are familiar with the Marilyn. But I mean, basically, we're just talking like kind of silkscreen art. And, I always, I mean, he was an interesting character and he definitely had talent. And there's no one to say that art, Andy Warhol, hand-signed signature Campbell's Soup can print. Price, US $9.99. I mean, that's kind of... It's kind of bizarre, right? Just blew up when I wanted it to. The classic Che Rivera one, and of course the Marilyn. And so I've got this idea that that in the future, he came from the future. This would be a good example here. We could. I'm assuming you're seeing all of this as it unfolds. This is where my lips will become out of sync because it's trying to pull in an image and it's stealing the bandwidth. There. So I think that's kind of big enough for you to get it. It's not super big. If you're watching this on a TV, so this was the 60s. And from there, we entered into this kind of anything goes art world. And to sit here and pretend I'm a art historian and I'm going to define what fine art is, as opposed to pop art, I'm not going to be pretentious, in that way. I consider myself an artist, an artiste, but just because of my own, what I produce, and the idea is the creative force of what I repetitive theme, and that is the consciousness. I believe creativity comes from consciousness, not the brain. I know that the argument people have is this left right brain idea. And, that's all well and good, but still the and scientists, that's the hard problem of consciousness that we deal with in my book Codex, which I could put on the screen, but we could also just snag from back here and cover that, is that in the concept of the hard problem of consciousness, look at the face on the guy in the back there. That's me. That's another version of me. I've gained like 20 pounds over the holidays. That's why my face is so fat. And I just can't get rid of it. And I'm hoping over the summer I will. Just, I don't know, just for vanity's sake, I guess. I mean, I guess for health's sake, it would be good too. But for vanity's sake. See, I don't have a clothes, like my clothes don't fit or anything like that, because I had weighed much more, because when I was putting 16 hours a day into being a computer, when I was a true computer geek, I gained a bunch of weight. So I had a lot of clothes that fit, so that most of the clothes so I never have it's not like that. And I'm comfortable. I spend most of my time alone. I'm not dating anybody, or I don't have any really reasons other than that. Just, it's kind of annoying that it you get the cheeks. People know what I'm talking about. For some people, they just think this is a weird conversation, but somebody, things that nobody really talks about. You get the chipmunk cheeks. Sometimes after you drink, if you drink a lot of beer, it seems to go to your cheeks too, as opposed to anywhere else. The traditional beer belly, but what does that have to do with art, infrastructure, and society falling apart at the seams, and Nero fiddling while Rome burned? Well, it does. It all comes together. Vanity. I mean, the idea of the artists themselves. Why did I create, write, produce 50 songs, 50 tracks? Why am I 10 books, all my graphic designs? My graphic designs are more in line with Warhol's work, but I never considered myself. My mother is a accomplished artist and painter, sculptor, and she did that her whole life and was in galleries and, in major cities and stuff. Her work is really good. I should actually show some of that. She's 87 years old now, so she doesn't really produce. She's not really doing anything in that vein. She's like everyone of that age. They're locked down and not, they're under lockdown, real lockdown. You can't even visit them. I'm trying to get a little bit more comfortable. But and when I worked for Roy Cohn, he had a Warhol original on his stairwell. And I've been to, I lived in the major cities, New York, LA, DC, Philly, been to Chicago. So I've made the gallery. I've always did the gallery runs, and so I've seen a lot of, I've seen a lot of art firsthand, up close and impersonal, to examine it. It's like two things you notice about a lot of fine art for those who never had the opportunity to see things, because so much stuff is in private collections now. Because all that, that started in the with the .com multimillionaires, and then Wall Streeters and all that. And they just started buying up all this stuff. And every now and then, some curator at some gallery, the garbage truck is coming. So that may overpower my voice. Every now and then, a good curator at a major gallery will contact these people and pull together, that's the garbage truck, the artwork, and put on a show, by a specific artist. But, in many cases, these people just have this stuff in private collection. It's like I've said many times before about the great works, the lost information from the past, the tomes, right? It's bad enough that the Vatican is, archives, have all this stuff that maybe date back to the Library of Alexandria, and they're hiding that from mankind. I mean, that's the true crime of the millennia, if you think about it. What gives them the right to that? It's stolen to begin with. Okay, it was plunder. Just the way the British museums plundered, during their colonial exploits, right? All in the name of like they were higher, some kind of higher species or something like that. I don't know. And they deserved, to grab all this stuff. But it's the private collections. See, this is the thing that gets me. So yeah, that's all bad. That's bad enough. Yeah, I could see that for some reason my lips are out of sync. So it could well be the Warhol thing that's doing this. So let's get rid of that. And let's go back to Rockflux. See what happens. This is a low. I made this page in HTML. Yeah. Are we back in sync? No, there's a delay. Why? Why is there a delay? It's annoying. Better? No. Well, anyway, I have to avoid, that may be problematic in the playback. So let's get rid of this altogether. And let's just put this here and see if we can build back to a sense of normalcy. Testing 1, 2, 3. See, this is why I don't like using, oh, by the way, this background, this is what my bar used to look like. There. I don't know if you get how well that's going to show up on the in the final analysis. But if you watch YouTube on TV, and you have a big screen, you probably could get the full impact of that. That's my screensaver. It doesn't look like that anymore. I changed it. There's a refrigerator in the back, but you see, I have a washer. I actually have a washer there. So anyway, we'll have the man in the box, and you notice how I'm now back in sync, mostly. Yeah, it's weird. And I'm kind of looking in the camera. It's kind of weird. All right, so let's put this back into perspective. We're 39 minutes, 35 seconds into the show. For some people, this seems very bizarre. It's probably...
This is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
But it's not really. It really all plays in together. And you'll see. We always make these. It's always some kind of circular thing that kind of dials back to where we want to be. So I got a feeling that as society, at the end of civilization, man will start producing some of his, and then not in the personal pronoun sense, but because mankind, this is our language. It's too late to change the language at the end of the world. Do you see? And people are like, what are you talking about, the end of the world? It's the end of the world. It's the end of civilization as we've known it. Let's face that reality. And I haven't even got, this show isn't even about catastrophism, all right? And about the micronova that may well hit us within the next 20 some years, okay? The extinction event, near extinction event. No, as civilization, see, as cultures rise and fall, civilizations rise and fall. You have, it's like the final words of a dying person, almost. The profundity, but I go back to the concept of the artist, meaning, question. I have a question. The question is, what if I switched from Wi-Fi back to, or would that disconnect me from YouTube altogether and end this broadcast? I think it would. So I guess I'm stuck with Wi-Fi. So for some reason, I'm out of sync, and I should no longer be out of sync, right? Because I'm not using any extra bandwidth. I have 16 gigabytes of DRAM on this computer, right? It's weird. And I've got this like kind of absurd delay. Is it the background screen that's causing some kind of broadcast confusion? Do I bring this out to here? Does that suddenly make things better? No. If I put this into perspective, hey, I'm experimenting live with something, who knows? All right. Well, excuse me. I hope we can get through this. I'm just going to try to talk and not pay attention to my own face or the man in the box over there. Delayed tilt. The idea is that society, Western civilization is over. And there's nothing you can do about that. This is the former United States of America, where I'm broadcasting from. Somewhere, right, in this zone of the mid-Atlantic states to the Ohio Valley, which, by the way, we're still going to get temperatures in 39 degrees. And, that's not cool. But the garden is looking nice, though, in the backyard. It really is. It's very green. In fact, one of my notes is this is the grow season. I was almost going to make that the title, but then I figured that would confuse people. But yeah, it's the grow season now. And everything's alive. It's like I alluded to yesterday, is this idea that there was the day before maybe, that we're only a part of this ecosystem. And, maybe, it was the little tongue in cheek to say that we are nothing more than CO2 producers and fertilizer for the primary life form on the planet, which are the trees and the flowers and plants and everything else. But it's not so far-fetched to think that. It really isn't. And and conversely, to look at the songbird, the cardinal, say, even, or a beautiful flower, or a 2,000-year-old tree. They have the people have found these things. These living things that, what's, what is it? I mean, are we so full of ourselves? And again, like I say, with this delay that just seems to come in and out, I don't know what the playbacks are going to be like on this, but I want to continue with the show. Maybe I should hide myself behind the microphone, and then at that point, it didn't really matter. But the content's more important than the delay of my of the lips. So these guys who are trying to do this infrastructure project, they don't know what the hell they're doing. And they're making a mess, and it's noise, and my entire 100-year-old house was shaking. And I've said this once before. I've been through earthquakes in California, and an earthquake in California just lasts a very short period of time. I mean, it's shaking, and then it's over. Maybe something falls off the wall, or if you didn't have, a dish or a cup that was, near the end of something might fall off. But what kind of damage is it doing to my house when I'm having an earthquake? My bed was vibrating last night at about 8:30, 9 o'clock. I was laying in bed binge watching this stupid Criminal Minds series where I talk about this. Got that blonde doll on there. And my entire bed was like shaking like this. Mattress, room, walls, windows were shaking. I mean, we're talking about, a strong earthquake, but nonstop. Now, what is that doing to my foundation? I was thinking like liquefaction. I'm like waiting for my house to fall over. But then again, the pipes, I have gas lines, old electric. It's a 100-year-old house. I mean, the electric's been upgraded at one point, but there's always some wires somewhere, they didn't, snake through and replace. So we don't have enough apprentices. We don't have enough people of what I call generation now coming up, taking over. Right? I looked out there. There weren't a lot of young guys in their 20s. I can't even think I don't even think I saw one in this entire crew. So that's another thing. It's like, so civilization, forget it. If nobody's, and nobody again I'm generalizing. But if not enough people, in a country of 320 million people, that spans this, whole swath of North America, if there aren't enough people with trades to, hold hold the country together from from a standpoint of infrastructure. It's fine and dandy for them to say, oh, we're going to create this great infrastructure project. Right. But, excuse me. They don't have the people to do it. Wi-Fi is way whacked out. So let me do this. Let me stop casting and see what that does. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I stopped casting. Maybe that'll help. See, I try to find these solutions to these problems, and no matter what I do, it's nothing.
Good morning.
It's like,
Go ahead and shoot. You'll be doing me a favor.
it's I don't know, frustrating at the very least. Anyway, back to normal. White teeth. So that's just the way it is, the country, the politicians, the corporatocracy, who are, the politicians now, what I call the organized crime syndicate. They don't know what they're doing. They're clueless. And civilization is falling apart, it seems. People aren't paying attention to it. It's just like, these broadcasts, people don't care. They don't want to know the truth. Not interested. They don't want to think about stuff like this. And, so I guess it's fine. It's like little kid puts their hand over their eyes and thinks that, they're high, nobody can see them. That's pretty much what's going on right now. Right. It's like the 3 monkey things: hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, whatever. Except the problem is these guys are definitely speaking, hearing, and seeing evil everywhere. So infrastructure project's not going to work. We know that. We know that because of the Green New Deal concept that they've, you can't have one, you can't have both. You could have one or the other. You could either abandon fossil fuels, organic, from the earth, CO2 producing fuels that give the planet life. All right. What does that annoy people when I say that? But it's true. Right. And you could either do that, or you could, reopen those pipelines and, pump more of that organic, natural earth fuel and fix this country and the world. But you can't, because there aren't enough people that know how to do it. And I'm witnessing it right in front of my house. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They're spending 12 hours. Everything they do is puzzling. I talk to people and they're saying, oh, people's basements are flooding. I'm waiting for that, because today's the day they already got the lines sawed in with that thing I showed earlier in the video, the world's biggest saw. So it's open. Now it's just a matter of bringing in the heavy equipment and digging out that thing headed right towards my porch. My porch is liable to fall down when they do that. And I wonder what they're going to do about that. Build me a new porch on the spot? Do I have to put in an insurance claim, and then my insurance policy will go up because of some, inept morons? So the building trade, forget about that. Try to get this in an area where it's not so glaring. It's a little crooked. I have this thing on a everything here is as it goes is jerry rigged. And my chair just slid down again. So, that's one thing. That's one part of society that's fallen apart. Right. The other part of society fallen apart, and I'm losing my voice again today. So it's one of those white handkerchief constantly clearing my voice. What if it's the coffee or... I mean, some days it's worse than others. Or maybe because I drank yesterday. I don't know. But I only had I didn't drink that much. So forget this infrastructure joke of a project thing. They're talking about projects. That's that's more of the glamour misdirection. All right. So we have that nonsense that we can forget about. So, and I was, so I'm talking about my thought yesterday while I was drinking was this idea that the best art will come out now. Because we're on the verge of extinction. I have no control over these images here, by the way. That's coming from Chromecast, Google, whatever. I just left it on, So I guess they're pulling images from somewhere. I don't know. But at least I'm back in sync, I think. But yeah, I think that what happens is as a culture, as a civilization dies out, that there's some sort of innate thing that just comes out that where we kind of cry out to produce, hey, we were here, right? Isn't that what art is? Isn't architecture and stuff like that? Well, the pyramids, the Sphinx. Hey, we were here. These obelisks. Paint what, even, the idea of the artists themselves. No matter what you are. A dancer, a ballerina, I mean, a performer on the stage. Look at me, right? Right. And then living and getting off on that, on the applause, the adulation, right? Look at me, it's like a childish thing, someone trying to be the center of attention. This chair's done. So I just had that idea, it seems where, I'm taking it beyond the level. Most people don't accept the fact, or even it hasn't even dawned on them that Western civilization is gone and that this is the former United States. I may well be the only person who says that out of 320 million people. Right? They just don't see it. I know that from scanning, every time I turn on YouTube to just do even this, when you go to YouTube, you type in YouTube and you're at the home page, and your home page, because you're logged in, is going to have your recommended. And then there's usually a line of they love to throw news at you. So there's the news line, and then there's, recently uploaded type of things. It's just in your face. You don't have to click on them, but they're the title cards with a title, you know. So I mean, it says it all. Remember, we live in the age of memes. So the title card on YouTube, in effect, is the meme, right? You watch the video, you may or may not get that story, right? Because half the memes are clickbait. Or in the case of the news media and people like that, it's the same as what they do with their memes or with their headlines. In other words, they're basically telling you, getting their point across in that graphic with that one sentence. That's all they want to tell you anyway. They really, you know, they don't want you to watch and have to have, and towards the end of the video where they say, well, actually, you know, this was not entirely prove it, you know. No, it's about the meme, you know, and that's all part of the glamour, the misdirection, and all that stuff. But you've heard me say that 1,000 times before. But what I'm getting at is that it's in your face. So you see society's crumbling, right? And I'm not talking about some events, you know, that they latch on to, right? Remember, like I said, there's 190 or 19,000 plus homicides in the US alone every year. And so the idea that they say, oh, well, there's an active shooter or there's something here or some two people were, you know, shot here and this, that, the other, and try to tie it into some divisiveness. Oh, it was a person of color or it was a cop. What, you know, it's like, come on, there's 19,000 of these things a year. And you guys are like trying to cherry pick some kind of thing, right? Well, what, you know, is that because the actual number I looked at, though it was about a year old or something, was 19,141. So if there seems to be like a dozen or a couple dozen things that they've latched onto in the last year or so, my question is, what are those other 19,000, you know, 120 human lives lost? What, you know, what race, creed, color, you know, religion, background, occupation were they? And do people in the media really care, or did they just go for like the easy way out? Oh, here's one. Hey, you know, their morning little editorial meetings. Here's one. Look at this guy, man. Look at that ugly. That's one ugly mother. Let's make him the poster boy for this, because that'll do. Excuse me. What that'll do is that'll get all those other people, because he's such an ugly mother. That'll get all those other people, like, you know, set them off and trigger them. So let's make him the poster boy. You know what I'm talking about, man. The ugliest mother right in the face of the planet. The poster boy that we've been like shoved down our throat for a frickin' year, while 19,000 other people were shot legitimately who weren't on drugs. Not shot legitimately, illegitimately, I should say. But anyway, that's the downfall of civilization. Civilization's over. America's over, right? This former United States. Isn't that happening? They don't follow the Constitution. There's no freedom of speech, no freedom of assembly. You can't redress the government with grievances. If you do, they'll knock down your house. You know, they'll erase you, right? Block you. Say you're misrepresenting something. Yeah, it's, you know. So my thing is that I think at this time, there will be, and you should keep your eye out for it. Look out for those that are, you know, producing the best, because we only have about 20 years, right? Either way. See, whether the sun micronovas, which I've started to talk about and we'll be talking about much more, But whether or not the sun micronovas and we have this pretty much extinction event for all practical purposes, Western civilization isn't going to survive. At best, it seems people within the equatorial region maybe be best chance of survival, but we don't even know that for sure. This thing, the last time this happened, it's like a 12,000 year cycle. So most people don't even admit that there was modern man in quotation marks 12,000 years ago, except for guys like Hancock who every day talks about Göbekli Tepe and stuff like that, or some of these people on that Gaia channel and what have you. Maybe it was touched on occasionally from ancient aliens, but they don't know what they're talking about, really. They're just throwing out these, it's hard to even call them hypothesis because it's it's loosely put together information. And that gets back to this idea that what right do these people like the Vatican have to hold back these books and tomes of ancient information? But worse, as I was alluding to earlier, the private collections by the wealthy. So not only have they scooped up all of the artwork by the great masters throughout time, right? So they could have their private party and it's on the wall. Here, look at this. Look what I got. But they also have, this information, these books are sitting in these castle-like homes of the Davos set, the billionaire, the ruling elite. And that information is just hidden there in some, under glass, in some temperature controlled room, or like you see in some thriller movie about a thief, with all these infrared lights and security system things. Yeah, that's basically, it's like the DC thrillers. I always try to tell people, not DC Comics, DC, Washington, DC, Tom Clancy and all this, Jack Reacher and all that stuff. It's like I spent time in DC, It's like you understand those things, they're not only like true, but they're not nearly touching the way it really is, like how extreme what really goes on. But people just watch it and they think it's just like a fantasy, right? Thriller. It was a movie. Yeah, that was fun. It's like, you have no idea, right? It's like I watch these shows now. I've been binge watching this Criminal Minds show, like I say, mainly just to watch this, this blonde doll dance around, because I don't care about talking about stuff like that. Why else do you watch this show, right? The content isn't that great. I really not interested in all their, crime things, because it's repetitive. And that's the show where they call them the unsub. Well, in this case, the unsub. But I'm a demographic profiler from, days gone by. Behavioral science is my hobby. So it's like after you watch so many shows, it's like the same repetitive stuff comes out of it. So it's boring. I don't even know why I watch it. I wish something better would come along. It's a new month. It's like on Netflix. And I haven't seen anything new. There is some Tom Clancy thing, but it doesn't, it looks like they've got some token people put in there cast-wise just to keep the the social justice warriors off them, right? A clown operation, entertainment, politics, everything is. It's where it was a lyric in my song, "Bigger Than Dat" is the name of Bigger DAN Dat. There's a line in there, "Where are they taking this country?" I wrote that song like a couple of years ago too. I was listening to a few of my tracks yesterday while I was drinking. Like I say, I have my own music on my playlist. I like it. If you don't produce for yourself, I mean, why produce? That's the whole thing. If I don't do things, that's why I don't push things. I'm not worried about being commercial. Like I say, I live in poverty, below the poverty line by choice. I'm comfortable at this level. I'm they've got less claws in me. I got a call yesterday while I was drinking from DirecTV, which I canceled back in November, right? October and November, canceled the service. Returned the box through official channels. I've talked about this once before. And they just kept trying to set and paid the final bill, right? Back then. So this is now almost 7 months ago. I'm getting a call and they're calling me like trying to collect as if, I was getting emails from them saying your service will be disconnected. You're behind, you're delinquent on your thing. I was getting things like that in January and February of this year. Right. And I had talked to them. I had talked to some people. I said, you don't get it. I don't even have the frickin' box. How could I watch DirecTV? I returned it. Here's the receipt number. All right. I made the final payment. But to see, this is a whole other thing. They're out of control. They've got these foreign people, not that it matters that they're foreign, but these foreign people that get these lists. And so they call, and hassle you about something. Their customer service is farmed out. Or they use these bots, chat bots, and they're not listening to you. A chat bot's not listening to you. You see, that's the thing people don't understand. The chat bot's not listening. And it doesn't seem to be taking in the data. So when you're in customer service with the chat bot or you're doing one of these things, typing in, it's not even being recorded. Because if it was, they would have had, I painstakingly put in this 16-digit number, tracking number for when I returned the box and stuff. Went through all these details, dates and times, and I apologize for this. But they didn't care because it wasn't being recorded. Yesterday I just said to this woman, was foreign, probably coming from some other country. I said, just check your records. I said, I've talked to a half dozen different people and bots and explained this situation. Stop hassling me. Give it up. And I know exactly what's going to happen. They're going to turn, after that conversation, they're going to turn this over to collections, and it's going to go into, and I'm going to have a collection agency after me. And then what do you do when that happens? If it depends on what the collection agency is, they could send you a registered letter or have the sheriff deliver something and set it up with the magistrate. Now, this is how our system works, this organized crime system, how they took over, all this stuff. And so it's up to you to show up at the magistrate, right? Or something like that. And it's like, I'm not showing up at some magistrate for something that I don't even owe you for. But that I give you that because that's a personal anecdote, that's reality. Yeah. I recently got a credit card again, after I swore off credit cards for years. But the reason I did it is I got the credit card from a company that I went through one of those whole fake collection. They were after me. Some law firm collection agency was trying to push me through a magistrate. I fought it with a lawyer and won and all that stuff. And so I got a credit card with them just so I could sit here and be like, I won. You were wrong. Now I have a credit card from your company and you were accusing me of not paying a bill. Right. So the thing is, that's why guys like me, they can't stand people like me because I don't put up with it. And I like I say, I jackhammer it to them. It's like I don't allow people to get away with bullshit. But the average person does. They just take it. They take it and take it and take it and take it. And meanwhile, everything around them is falling apart. But nobody seems to be complaining, because they got their little stimulus checks. Of course, they all spent that. Money's gone by now. And they wasted it. They weren't smart like me and buying one of these things from Great Solar Stuff or, that this thing that turned in priceless, this NOAA radio and flashlight, which I used, when we had our recent 50-mile-an-hour gust winds, power outages, storms, freezing nights in, May 1st, fake global warming, right? In May. This week, it's going to be 39 degrees 2 nights. They say 39. It'll probably, whenever they start at 39, it'll be, But man, I'm not covering my lettuce. In fact, I think it's not tonight, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm just going to go out and pick a lot of lettuce and have a nice big salad. In fact, a friend's supposed to be stopping by. So I'll probably just make some nice salads out of my garden rather than let the leaves freeze, right? But yeah, the yard looks really great. I'll do a video. I did one the other day, but it got aborted for some reason when I was uploading it. Like I say, they're messing with me. They mess with me. And there's no reason to, I mean, there must be a reason. I think they're throttling me. It's like a couple people have told me who are in the business that are saying, no, they're messing with your numbers. They do that because people like, it's like people, that's why they have the whole thing called trending. People will watch when you, like, if you even on Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever you have, they'll have this trend. Here's what's trending. And they're self-fulfilling, not prophecies, but they're self-fulfilling things. So people see, oh, here's the number one trending movie or series. Here's the number 2 trending thing. And so people, oh, it's trending, so I'm going to watch it. And so trending is trending. It's like what they do with why my books don't sell. See, what happens is the major publishers, if my book, say I decided to go buy 1,000 books. Somebody out there, if you have you just made boatload of money on Bitcoin. Okay, go to Amazon and buy 1,000 of my books and just pass them out, put them out, and pass them out in coffee shops or something, and I'll be on the New York Times bestseller list and the Amazon top seller list. And so that's what the publishers do. They basically buy 1,000 books, then they get them on the bestsellers list. And then what happens is, because they're on the bestsellers list, then all these people go, "Oh, that book's on the bestsellers list, so that must be a good book, so I'm gonna buy it." So it more than, so then they make plenty of money, hundreds of thousands, if not more. And so the fact that they bought 1,000 books, right? The mere $10,000 that they spent to buy 1,000 books, right, is overcompensated by the hundreds of thousands, if not the $1 million they made by having a New York Times bestseller or something. Everything's fixed today. It's all fixed. That's how it works. But home, you don't play that, It's the same with music. Distribution is the name of the game. And so the record companies still have, the control of distribution. And they press everything from Spotify to Clear Channel radio stations to YouTube and Apple Music and, Amazon, and so they control that. So independent artists, occasionally some independent artists, these bands, there's some bands out there, or even artists that like really do, and this particular younger bands or whatever, they go on the road and, you do like Peter Frampton did back in the 70s. He did like something like 300 concerts in a year or something like that. And that's why the name Frampton, or if you don't, you should. And that Frampton's Comes Alive, or Frampton's Live album. Do you feel like we do? And so, there's people that go out there and they just do the tours. And it's like even a writer, you could go, there's coffee shops, combination coffee bookstores all over this country. And it's like, yeah, I could go and set up some kind of tour and just go, spend 6 months, going to these places with a stack of books like this and signing them, right? It's like signed copy book. And yeah, but I mean, that's not, that's, people do that. But that's how, but that even a lot of people who do that, a lot of the tour bands that go on tour and pay their dues, and try to push it the hard way that way, you don't know them, And at best they have a fan base that when they come back to these particular cities or clubs, people show up and maybe buy their digital album now or whatever, or their swag, their shirt, like I've got everything is wrong, or that other shirt I showed earlier today, which you should buy. They're classic shirts. I have all that stuff. I just don't go on tour, you see? And that's the difference. And I don't care. I can't. I'm not going to do that, I don't drive anymore. I got rid of my car. Like I say, I live below the poverty line intentionally. I don't want to have the hassles that come with all that stuff. Nose is itchy. When you live below the poverty line, you don't even have to pay taxes in this country. So I'm just into living life and being detached as much as possible as I can from the organized crime syndicate that runs Western civilization, the remnants of it in the former United States. So, to put that in perspective. So most people, there you go. That was the pyramids there. That's an example of a culture, which is way before the dynastic Egyptian period, though Egyptologists today won't admit that. Those things were built probably 36,000 years ago. In other words, the last near extinction event, micronova, that just took away, wiped out civilization 12,000 years ago. Buried the northern latitudes in ice. There was a pole flip, baked people. Ocean levels rose 400 feet. All right. And all the flood myths from around the world, Noah's flood and the other 1,000 of them. That's when that occurred, 1,000 years or 12,000 years ago. But you go back like 24 or 26,000 years, and there was another one. So we don't even aware of that. And then 36,000 years. There's this guy named Anthony West, Anthony West. I don't know. I can't think of his name. I should, because he was a really intelligent man, and he studied that. He recently died in the past year or two. But he was similar to what I believe in, is that 36, like the Sphinx is probably over 36,000 years old. So it goes back to, to the third extinction event, 2 extinction events prior to the one upcoming one, right? Now I talk about this stuff and people are like, what are you talking about? Right? Right? What are you talking about? And that's the thing, people have no idea. It's the same as saying former United States. People are like, what are you talking about? There's an election in 2022 and then 2024. We're going to take back Congress. We're going to take back the White House. It's like, man, it's over. You're living in an authoritarian, state. This global governance, a series of corporations, big tech, right? Big pharma, military industrial complex, central banking systems. It's an organized crime syndicate. There's no United States of America anymore. Like I said, it's irreconcilable difference. Even if you believe that the government still existed, it has such irreconcilable differences that all you'd be doing would be changing out one for the other, but you can't call it a United States. And there's no law. It's lawlessness. 19,141 homicides a year. The media is totally ignoring everything. All they're doing is selling used cars and pharmaceuticals and bright and shiny objects, overpriced appliances. We're at a time in history right now. Well, it's the end of history as we know it. This civilization is over. It's ending in the next 20 years for multiple reasons, extinction event or not. And right now we're seeing this ridiculous runaway inflation. The price of everything has gone completely out of control. They're trying to give everybody, get people in debt so that they survive, and people are in debt. That's how they're surviving. But it's all coming to a head. And so what do you do when everybody starts freaking out the way they're starting to freak out? Well, you move towards the police state. And that's what's going on. So this is the totalitarian police state, authoritarianism, globalism, whatever you want to call all this stuff. It's one big organized crime syndicate, right? run, it's run by corporations, not elected officials. That's all that's all the glamour. That's all just misdirection. It's deceptions. It's lies. And anyone under the age of 40 or 50, I think it is even now, they've gone through an education system that indoctrinated them. They've been conditioned, and now they're propagandized by the media that they're clueless. And so when a guy like me says this stuff, they're like, what is that guy? Like, put him in a straitjacket, take him away, get the butterfly nets, right? Where's his tin? I bet you he's got tin foil under that cap, right? That's how people are. They don't, I mean, like I say, they have this reality as we know it is so far from what reality really is. And that's on multiple levels too, because I always get into this consciousness thing too. Remember, I was talking earlier about creativity and your consciousness. Forget the left-right brain bullshit. The bioelectric brain that you have is a subconscious, subhuman, it's your android body's operating system. That's all it is. And that's what these controllers feed into. You see? They want to control you as a machine. That's why all these people are into this transhumanism. I don't know why they call it transhumanism. It's just robotics. They're just basically controlling the android body. They should call it androidism or something. But see, your consciousness lives outside of your brain. It's called the hard problem of consciousness. All serious scientists will agree that they on that. There's no, that's contemporary science. That's the issue of the day. And what I'm telling you is that creativity lies within consciousness, is the you that perceives the world in the first person. So that's where creativity comes from. It's not a left-right brain thing. This is just guys trying to play with things. Your consciousness is linked to this android body, and obviously these senses, okay? But you're more than the sum of your senses, all right? You're the sum of your experience. Life is an experiential thing, right? The meaning of life is to experience life, and you experience life through these senses. But the key word there is you, and you is the person that views this world in the first person. And that's called the hard problem of consciousness. Okay. And that's what, I touch on that. This would open your mind to a lot of this stuff if, you maniacs would read it. I'll just give you the opening paragraph. Those who study the human brain have a problem with consciousness. They refer to it as the hard problem of consciousness, which was first coined by philosopher David Chalmers back in 1995. And I'd say feel free to go down that rabbit hole if you want. Many neuroscientists insist that the concept of there being a separate entity that exists outside the bioelectric functions of neurons and synapses is just theism. Put plainly, they don't believe there's such a thing as a soul or a detached mind. To them, the inner you is just created somehow solely by the brain. They just don't know. They don't have an answer. They say that, but they don't know. Okay? And so that's called the hard problem of consciousness. I'm in the back of my book in the curved thing. The hard problem of consciousness. An adventure for your mind. Flow of consciousness. And people, they just don't want to deal with that's reality. When I say, what is reality? Perception is reality. Okay? But your perception is being distorted. People are robots. Most people are robots. And I push this thing where I talk to people and say they're just soulless. Even because, and it's not has to do with your religious beliefs or something. Consciousness. You could call it the soul. You could call it consciousness. You could call it some kind of new age spiritualism or something like that. I'm just calling it consciousness, so I could deal with everything and everybody. You decide. Your individual beliefs. Of an afterlife, of immortality. And that stuff. That's up to you. Like I say, I'm not trying to tell anybody anything, what to believe. I'm just a truth sayer. I'm just a guy telling you the truths that I've uncovered, right? Or discussing things, problems that exist to open your mind to them. And when I don't have an answer for something, I tell you, or we go on the internet, and look and find that number or that figure, right? So, you got to wake up to this reality, reality. And so we're at a time where everything is wrong. And like my other shirt, which I showed earlier on the show, what you don't know, you don't know. That's a very profound statement, and it's a statement you need to take to heart. What you don't know, you don't know. My cat's down here. You want to come up here? Show people what you look like? After this broadcast, I'm going to have to boil some noodles of some kind, and maybe I'll throw in some salmon and I'll give you the juice. How does that sound? If you come up here and say hi to the people, I'll do that. But you're a cat and you don't understand English. Things we ascribe to pets. There are certain words they know, certain other words they don't. You want to come up? Come here. Gotcha. Okay, I gotcha. I got him. Oh, this is a rarity. Look at those eyes. Some of you people didn't even believe he exists. Yeah, it's a microphone. Say hi. Okay. Be free. Go over there. I just tossed him onto the futon. It's a little favorite spot of his. Yeah. So me and my cat, we live here. Got a garden and I feed birds. And today's it's getting daylight out there, 6:50 a.m. Those bastards will probably be starting in another 10 minutes or so. So I'll probably cut this show a little short. It's crazy. It really is.
The only station that matters.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
So, yeah, I think I'm going to cut it there. Thanks for watching, as always. And
Elvis has left the building.
Yeah.
Thank you and good night.
I should say basically not good night, but
Good morning.
Cheers. Talk to you tomorrow. I'll let you know how this nonsense outside turns out today. Have a great day.